Black Star Rising, all you folks who have been watching us for these years, glad to have you watching us today. And before I do anything else, you know, the usual, my shout out is to Philip Jackson, the memory of Philip Jackson, and the ongoing involvement of Gloria Smith, the executive director of the Black Star Project. Gloria, thank you for making this possible. I want to also give shout outs to the executive director of CAN TV, and that's Mr. Hillman. Darius Hillman, thank you making this possible for all the non-for-profit programs that we have that come through here, and to be able to have guests like we're going to have in a few minutes that we're going to introduce to. It's going to be an encore for him today. And I'll tell you this too. He's one of my D9 brothers, a member of Q Psi Phi. So I know folks are going to be calling now. Brother of Q Psi Phi is going to be on, right?
That's right.
And I know they're going to come out for you. So get your pencil and paper out. There's going to be information we're going to share with you. Can I go any further without giving thanks to my producers? And that is Dr. Mike Washington, who is the producer, associate producer for guest engagement, and to Ellis Taylor, the associate producer for social engagement. Folks at the Atlas Center at Crocs, call your folks, viva voce, pass the word on that they will be coming out and they will be here to see and hear Mr. Bernard C. Turner, excuse my brother, all right? He is a member of Q Psi Phi, made down in a great chapter down at the University of Illinois. Brother Turner, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, right
your
now,
background in Chicago and where you came from school. They'd like to know that.
they like to know that. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Tell them
I
right
actually grew up in Chatham, but I was born in Bronzeville, around 40th and Cottage Grove.
there. Raise your hand,
Lived
those
in
who know.
Bronzeville.
Yeah, raise your hand, folks out who know about that. Okay, nice. Okay, go ahead.
Family lived in Bronzeville, and then later on, after the restrictive covenants were found to be unlawful, the family moved to Chatham.
Okay, are they still unlawful? Just out of curiosity.
Well, they're not.
Okay, kidding now.
Okay. So I lived in Chatham. I went to Hirsch High School for a couple of years.
My brother went to Hirsch. What grammar school did you go to?
I went to Ruggles Elementary School.
Raise your folks who went to Ruggles, lived in Chatham or Park Manor, raise your hands. See all those folks?
Ah, yeah.
All right.
I see you all out there.
You see them out there.
And then they had something called the Permissive Transfer Plan.
Oh, you
Back
one
in
of
the
those smart
60s.
kids that you can go where you wanted to go.
Well, it wasn't where we wanted to go, but they had some schools that were not as overcrowded, not as
Okay.
crowded as the schools on the south side.
Mm-hmm.
So you could choose to go to a school on the north side.
And where did you end up going?
And I, along with some of my classmates from Hirsch, chose to go to Senn High School.
Senn, okay. I
Senn
remember
High
that.
School, up in
Still,
Edgewater.
Yeah, still a great high school.
Yeah, and that was an interesting experience to go from an all-black school to a very diverse high school.
About how many blacks were in the school at the time?
At the time when we got there, maybe no more than 50, 75.
That's about 2,000 kids in the school.
It was a huge school,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But it was
Fly in the buttermilk almost.
but it was a very interesting experience
It had to be.
to be around all those different languages and all those different ethnic backgrounds and so forth. So
And how long did it take you to get from Chatham over to, what community was that, by the way?
it's in Edgewater.
Edgewater. And does that lead us into what we're going to talk about a little bit today?
It could.
Why
It
don't
depends
you
on where
let us
want-
lead you into that?
All right,
It's
let's-
about communities. Tell me about your organization, because I don't want to mess up the name, because you got a big name to the organization,
Yes.
that you're the executive director
It's
of.
very important to get the
Get
name
this right, folks. Write this down so you don't mess it up when you're telling other people about it. Get on the phones of them.
So I'm the executive director of the Bronzeville Black Metropolis National Heritage Area.
Okay, repeat that just once more.
Bronzeville Black Metropolis National Heritage Area. And there are a total of 62 national heritage areas around the country.
About how many in the Chicago area, if you could talk about that?
Well,
Excuse me.
there's only the one.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's a special
A
designation.
national heritage area is like a national park.
But,
So you think of a national park like Yellowstone, Rocky
Yes,
Mountain
yes.
National Park. Those are pristine areas. National heritage areas also preserve the culture and the history, but they're in lived-in communities. So
okay.
that's the difference.
But it's called Bronzeville. Is it called Bronzeville because of a particular thing? Because there's not a Bronzeville a recognized community. Now, I'm going to get this straight now because I know you're going to straighten me out on this. I can tell you're ready to straighten me out on this, right? There are designated communities, 77 in Chicago?
There are 77
Okay.
community areas
Community areas,
in
okay.
Chicago. And those community areas were researched and created by the University of Chicago
Back in
back in the
1920.
1920s.
Okay, excuse me, yes.
And the University of Chicago wanted to study the demographics of Chicago and put together a map, I guess you'd call it, of all the different areas. They studied the demographics, the economics, the people who live there, the ethnic background, all of those things, and they put together this map, which is called community areas.
Is that who drew up the boundaries over the years?
That's the University of Chicago.
Okay. Have the boundaries changed over the years?
The boundaries have not changed over the years.
Okay.
So you have to distinguish between community areas, which are the official designation, and then there are neighborhoods. So within a community area, there might be 3 neighborhoods.
Give us an example of that.
I'll give you an example.
An overview.
I'll give you an example. Bronzeville is really a nickname. So Bronzeville is not a community area.
Okay.
It's a nickname for a larger area. And when you think of Bronzeville, the community area is Douglas Grand
Douglas?
Boulevard.
Grand Boulevard,
So
okay.
Douglas and Grand Boulevard is the community area, but Bronzeville is just a nickname for that.
I
part.
guess I always considered myself, maybe fairly recently, as being a part of Bronzeville. You know, like Harlem probably has
Yeah.
different communities. But I grew up, and I guess what is now, I call it it's either East Inglewood or West Woodlawn. But I think it's probably what is it, Washington? What would I be?
Washington Park.
I would be Washington Park. I was
That
at
would be
63rd.
Washington Park,
63rd
yes.
South Park.
So you have to think of community areas as being different from neighborhoods.
Okay.
So that's the distinction.
Like you were probably on the borderline between Chatham and
Park Manor.
Park Manor.
Yeah.
So, okay. And a lot of folks say they might be living in Park Manor or someplace else. They say I came from Chatham, right?
Yeah.
That's back in the day.
Well,
anyway.
I didn't know that the dividing line
Uh-huh.
was 79th Street.
Okay.
So we lived at 78th Street, which was technically Park Manor. But if you cross 79th Street, you're in Chatham.
That was like living across the river or living
Yeah.
across the railroad tracks
Well,
almost.
we didn't think of it like
You
that.
didn't think of it then?
No.
But kids from where you went to Hirsch, but
Mm-hmm.
across the street, where they go to have Calumet?
No, they went to Hirsch. Calumet was west of there. So the people who went to Calumet probably lived west of the Dan Ryan.
Now, get into a little bit about this historical, the NHA, is that a reference, is that the correct nomenclature for it?
The
Yeah.
National Heritage Area?
Yeah. Tell us about that designation and how long have you had that designation and how did you come into the fold?
Yes. The National Heritage Areas have been around for about 50 years, actually.
Okay. Goes back
So-
to whose administration, if you remember?
I think it was Eisenhower.
Okay.
So the National Heritage Areas, the original one was in Illinois.
Okay.
The Illinois and Michigan Canal National Heritage Area,
Okay.
which is still there. So 62 National Heritage Areas now. Illinois has 3. So we have
Okay.
Bronzeville, Black Metropolis,
What's the kind of boundaries? Can you talk about boundaries,
Well,
or is there?
boundaries, I'll tell you,
Please.
you'll be able to understand it
Okay.
if I tell you a little bit more about them.
Mm-hmm.
But Bronzeville, Black Metropolis, is Bronzeville, but it's not, it's not, it doesn't have,
Real
well, it has
boundaries?
boundaries, but I'll give you the boundaries. 18th Street
Okay.
to 71st Street,
18th on the north,
The lake.
71st. Okay.
over to the Dan Ryan.
To Dan Ryan.
So
Okay.
that's the boundaries. The other two are Illinois and Michigan Canal,
How far?
and that's west
Okay.
of Chicago. So when you think of the portage, when people were transferring goods
Down the canals.
down the Illinois
Okay.
and Michigan Canal,
Mhm.
that's that area around Lockport, and out in that area, just
And
almost to Joliet.
Okay. Okay.
Champaign, not Champaign, LaSalle, LaSalle, Peru, out in that area.
What's the third?
And then the third one is looking for Lincoln.
That must
So
be down
looking for
Springfield.
Lincoln, so it's around Springfield, but incorporates all of the areas where there were Lincoln and Douglas debates back before the Civil War. So think of the 7 Lincoln-Douglas debates.
Okay.
They happened in different parts of the
State. Okay.
parts of the state. So that's one National Heritage Area, and then Illinois and Michigan Canal, and the third one is Bronzeville.
Is there a commonality between the three? Are they supposed to be distinctively different or what?
Well, we always say, when you go and visit one National Heritage Area, you say, I visited one National Heritage Area,
Okay.
and they're all distinct. They're all
Okay.
different. And they're designated because each one of them focuses on a particular aspect of American history.
Okay. Tell us about the particular aspect.
think
for the,
about-
Bronzeville.
Lincoln-Douglas debate.
Got that?
That's Lincoln
Okay.
and his work in Illinois, Illinois and Michigan Canal. That's all about, being able to transfer goods,
That was commerce.
commerce,
Okay.
exactly.
Yes.
And Bronzeville is all about the Great Migration. That is our story. The Great Migration and the Black Metropolis
That's
that became
part
Bronzeville.
of my story because my folks came up and right there in the middle of Bronzeville at 40th and Bowen. And my grandfather took that train, the L, from Cottage and Bowen into the stockyard where he went back in 1919
Yeah.
when my folks came from Alabama
Mhm.
during the Great Migration. Tell us, up-to-date us on what the mission is.
But the mission of a national heritage area is really to preserve the history and culture of that community.
Preserve.
So our story is the Great Migration. So we have all of the stories of the people who came to Chicago, who helped to build up the community into what is now Bronzeville.
So
which
you've got a
became-
number of personalities and personas that many of us know,
Oh, of
but
course.
that your organization puts them up or shows them or reveals how much of an influence they had on
Yeah.
this national heritage.
Right.
Okay.
So you think of who are the people who came during the Great Migration?
Can we count the ways? Go ahead.
All of the blues players,
Okay.
all of the jazz musicians.
Okay. Well, we're
all
talking
of
about Muddy
the-
Waters, and we're talking about
All of those kind of people.
Satchmo was here at one
all of
time.
those people,
Okay, who else?
and the gospel
Okay.
music came.
What about the
from the
Syntax, the journalists?
Well, of course, the journalists,
Okay.
Senstack Robert Abbott,
Okay.
who started the Defender
Yes.
newspaper. Yeah, all of those people came during the Great Migration.
What's been the most interesting thing about you becoming executive director, and what's the trail and way that you're how long you been executive director now?
We were designated at the beginning of 2023.
2023.
So it's really, we're just starting our third year. And I knew that I was going to be executive director, but we had to wait for the designation.
Mhm.
So the most interesting thing about it for me is understanding what the mission of a National Heritage Area is all about. As I mentioned, preserving the history and culture of that community, but also education. So we have to be able to impart all of that knowledge
Is it
to the
impart
next.
or bring back to?
Well, we have to give it
Okay.
to the next generation.
Okay.
So we focus on teaching kids in the school and getting the schools involved in learning about that.
So I think one of the things you do is you're a tour guide sometime during the conventions and things that have happened in Chicago, and folks who hear about this designated area, you're the ones that tell them a little bit about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, people will come to Chicago because they want to go to sports events or,
Like the Chicago White Sox, of course.
of course.
They don't want to go to the North Side,
Well,
Wrigley. Okay.
But they come for sports events. But
Okay.
people also come here because they want to learn about the jazz and the gospel music and
And where it
all of
started,
that, where it started,
churches, okay.
all of those things.
Okay.
And we have a lot of landmarks in Bronzeville.
Some of the most prominent that people ask about or you always want to show off, which are?
Well, in particular, if I were going to give a tour, I would probably want to start around 24th Street.
That's
so
where the
when
old
you-
Defender used to be on 24th.
Well, the Defender is
Okay.
right there. The
Urban
second.
League was there too.
I'm not
They
sure
were,
about
no, they
the.
were in the same building. I know because I wrote for them back then.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
But right around the corner is Quinn Chapel.
Chapel.
Quinn Chapel AME, which was one of the earliest congregations of black people in Chicago. And the story that they have to tell is that they were part of the Underground Railroad because so many people came through Chicago on their way to Canada on their way to Canada. And they had to come through Chicago and they went to places like Quinn Chapel.
Now this was a kind of a safe place before
Exactly.
because they were still slave catchers roaming through Chicago
There
like they
were,
did in New York
yes,
City.
yes.
Okay.
So Quinn Chapel, I would definitely take them to Quinn Chapel. As far as another thing that I would take people to is the Wabash Y.
Oh,
Think of the Wabash
I want
Y.
you to hold on a second. The reason I say that, I want to give some emphasis at some time. I want to take a station break.
Sure.
Mind if I take a little station break? I told you, this is brought to you by the Black Star Project. Gloria, I'm going to do these announcements right now. Folks, take your pencil and paper. There are programs that you need to write about and pass on to friends, relatives. You'll know when I talk about the program. Sorry it's not on the TV today, but we got the first one. The Kimberly Lightfoot Saturday University. That program starts now. Oh, it started, I think, Saturday.
March.
Oh, no, it'll start this Saturday, the 1st, and it'll go from 10 to 1 p.m., and we have a location in Chicago at 35th and King Drive, and the other one is out in Maywood, but this is the Kimberly Lightfoot Saturday program, and we'll have a phone number for you, too, that you can call. Well, I'll give it to you right now. Hey, write down, okay? See who's writing it down. Take names. Who don't, okay? 773 285-9600. For more information about that, 773-285-9600. Pass it on. And this is for 4th through 8th grade. I know you know somebody that should fit into that program. This is one of these programs that Philip Jackson did a number of years ago. Then we have the Philip Jackson Youth Development Program. That's going to start, or just started on the 20th, or starts this Friday, the 28th. And it goes through June, and that's the Philip Jackson Youth Development Program. And that is for ages 12 through 18. Please, write this down. Viva Voce, pass this information on. Then, one of my favorites is the Young Black Men of Honor. That program is for youth, young men on this particular case, from 8 to 18. That started today. Today was the first day of that. That will go until May 6th. And they meet on Tuesdays from 6 to 7:30. And call that number that I gave you, the 773-285-9600 for further information. I have one more that I did not get to you. I got to look for this. One more. Got the freedom. Did we get the Freedom School? Is that where the one where you taught at? You did some teaching at one of the schools. didn't
No,
you?
you didn't mention the Freedom School.
Philip Jackson Freedom School. That is for first grade to ninth grade. And call for the information about that. That starts on Friday too. Not Friday, I'm sorry, Saturday, March 1st, and that'll go until the 10th of May. Every Saturday. Call, Viva Voce, pass this information on so that you can get your kids, grandkids, your friends' kids involved with this, something that's going to make their life better in Chicago and will enhance the community too. Tell us a little bit about the time you did a little teaching. Was that at the university?
Well, I taught at the Kimberly Lightford Saturday School,
Okay,
and I was the library teacher.
okay.
So they get
Library
computer
teacher?
science,
Okay,
they get library, and then they get math. So in one day, they get computer science, library, which is reading, research, all of those kinds of things, and they also get math. So
that's
think
that
about
STEM? Is that part of the STEM?
STEM is science, technology,
Math?
STEM. STEM.
I'll
Anyway,
put you on the spot.
yes, you did. That's
Call us for more information. If we don't get it right today, we'll go get it right the next time. And call us about that.
yeah. So I taught in the Saturday University.
Okay. I stopped you because I wanted to get that commercial out. But tell us about some of the most exciting things that you've done over the years as executive director and that you've seen.
Well, one of the things that I do a lot is give tours.
Okay.
So I give tours to elementary students, so a school can come through on a field trip. High schools, colleges, and universities.
Do you tailor those trips to the age or to what you perceive as their interest or they should know about?
Yeah, usually if it's a business or an organization, they might tell me, I want to have some emphasis on the laws, equality, things that made Bronzeville a city within a city.
Okay.
So learning about restrictive covenants, redlining, learning about gentrification, for example, learning about how the urban renewal came about, people having to move from different places and so forth. Learning about the housing, public housing. So we talk about public housing, urban renewal. For example, the Ida B. Wells homes or the Robert Taylor homes that used to be
What
over.
happened to them, how they came about?
How they came about. Why did they build all of those public housing units in that neighborhood? Because they wanted to maintain segregation as much as possible.
What about, were they trying to get a certain vote too at that time?
Well,
Went
of course,
from the
that was
Republican
part of
Party
it.
Well, I
That
guess
was
that was
part of it as
history,
well,
yeah.
yes. So those are the kinds of things. People have asked me, let's say a course, an English course in college that focuses on the literature of literature. They might want a course that talks about the authors who lived in Bronzeville.
So they tell you, the school might tell you, I wanted this experience for this particular.
Exactly.
Okay. Have you got a number for that? I forgot to give you a little.
Well, my number is 773
773
425
425
2807.
2807. One more time, and so those who have short memories.
773 425 2807. But you can check out blackmetropolis.org. The website, blackmetropolis.org.
Okay. What else do you want to leave us with? And do you need volunteers? Because volunteers is something we support here. What about that?
Absolutely. We have a lot of events in the spring and summer. We have a couple of events coming up, April 12th and April 16th. We're having a symposium that focuses on the Underground Railroad and the Network to Freedom. The Chicago event is April 16th at Illinois Institute of Technology,
IIT.
IIT,
Yeah.
April 16th. And we have another event, June 28th, which is the Ida B. Wells Festival.
Before we go off the air, can I do one thing?
Sure.
I want to thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my
You're gonna
pleasure.
have D9. All right. glad to have you here today. But I really do. There's so much more I think we'll be able to cover on future events. But thank you. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Bernard, for
Thank
coming
you.
on short notice, too.
That's
I
okay.
appreciate that. Say goodbye.
Good night. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you.